stronger in doing what you're called to do when you show up and say, I'm going to take that risk. Yes. I'm just going to say yes. How am I going to do it? I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know. How are we going to build a school? Beats the heck out of me. I mean, we started with a Facebook page, Interpreting Dreams. It was okay. It was a lot of hard work. It was some long days. We didn't get anything out of it. But lots of other people did, and we were blessed that we were. And then all of these other things began to come along, more risks, more, oh, you need to do that, oh, we should. And then Seneca would come up with an idea. I'm like, oh, great. So we wind up with a school, an actual school that is online. It's a virtual school. Everything's online, and all of the interns are all over the United States. And it's a lovely thing. But had you told me 4 or 5 years ago that's what was going to happen, I'd have looked at you and said, you're out of your mind. Because, see, I couldn't figure out how that was going to happen. So sometimes in your dreams, step-by-step strategy comes. When we've been sick, when we've had issues with something going on in our family or our NIT family, the Now Interpret This, which is the name of the school, Now Interpret This family. This last year, we all struggled with physical issues. It's like everybody was struggling. And so we'd sit down and we'd pray about it, and then somebody'd have a dream. Seneca might have a dream. Seneca does flower essences. So God would give her an essence, a formula. They all come from him because she belongs to him. She works with him. She works for him. Isn't that good? I love my employer. Right? Because he gives us the strategy that we need. So then we go and we do what he says, and you find out it was exactly what was needed. You're like, wow, I never would have come up with that on my own. And I'm pretty smart some days. I never would have come up with that on my own. Right? So one of the things that, just to share a couple more dreams, if you're interested in, and I just want to go over this with you, but we published a Now Interpret This journal. This is for writing your dreams down. Now I can already hear you guys saying, I don't dream. But you do dream, you just haven't gotten to the place that you remember your dreams. And that's actually a discipline. And sometimes when you're not remembering, it's because the opposition is shutting down what's in your dreams. Are you following me? Because there's a lot in your dreams that you really need. I'm not saying it's the only way he speaks. It's one of the ways, right? So, in this journal, what it's got is some examples. It's short reading on the front because it's a journal. You're supposed to be writing in it. But it has the template that I was given, and I just want to quick share with you. Share with you what was given to me for the template, because apparently it was significant. So I always put down first the day and the date. That makes sense, because a year from now I might look back on this dream and find out this related to 12 months, right? 12 months down the road instead of the day that I had it. That happens all the time. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 years. It comes up, and then you wake up one day and you're like, oh, I remember I had this dream, yada, yada, yada. So the next thing is digital time. The reason we write down digital time rather than regular time is because we want it to be very, very specific. The reason is a lot of times there's an address in the specific digital time. For at least a year, I woke up at 3:33 every morning with a dream. Every morning. Couldn't figure out what was going on until finally somebody says to me, that's Jeremiah 33:3. And I'm like, bless you, really? Oh yeah. Call upon me and I will show you great and mighty things you have not known. That was the season I was in. For a year I had that, I had a dream, and every time I woke up it was exactly 3:33. Then I went through a 4:44, also in Isaiah. Went through a 5:55. How many of you have done the 1:11 or the 11:11? Listen, the numbers, he speaks in numbers. We can't just ignore the things we see. Because this will be here till it's gone. But the spiritual realm around you is always going to be here. You're always going to be a part of it. It's the only real thing. The rest, it's the matrix. Yes, you live in the matrix. Right? The reality is the spiritual realm. And we are spirit beings and should be connecting with that realm. But sometimes we don't. Either we're afraid or whatever. Sometimes we're lazy, whatever. Or sometimes we just don't have the purpose. We don't have the why for it, so we don't understand that there's really a purpose for understanding the spiritual side of life. And it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. You're made in His image. He put a deposit of Himself in you. And then He decided, after fellowship, infinity, fellowship, years and years and years and years of fellowship with you, He decides to put you in the earth so that you can fulfill some purpose. Wouldn't you like to know what that is? Yeah, I would too. We want to know. So then I write down the emotion. Now, FYI, lots of people who teach about dreams will say, your emotion will tell you whether your dream is positive or negative. To some extent, that's true. But that's not always true because you already have been experiencing, Pavlov's law, right? You've been conditioned to think a certain way. So something happens, you immediately in your emotions think it's negative when it isn't. Or think it's positive when it isn't. Right? So you write down your emotions so that you can assess what's going on. You can process what's happening. And you can see where we are deceived based upon the conditioning that we've walked through. It's like a black dog bit me. I'm afraid of every black dog because a black dog did bite me. Now, there's no genetic commonality to every black dog that makes them all bite. But because of my conditioning, I may be afraid of a black dog. See what I'm saying? But that's deception. And those neural pathways that are built, they're like that wall we were talking about that you keep putting a brick in. So those things have to come down so that you're open to what's really your portion. What's really going on in your life. How to get past the places where your opposition has hindered you over and over and over, like this cycle. Every time you go a direction, you wind up hitting the same wall, right? Sometimes that's a generational stronghold. Sometimes it's just your own conditioning. It's those things, the generational stuff is like the addiction you never said yes to. It's like you got it, even though you're not the one who opens the door, and so now you have to deal with it. That sucks, but it's the truth. Right? If you don't deal with it, you continue in it, and that cycle then goes to your offspring. But it also doesn't always travel just in the bloodline. It'll go to all of your family who is within earshot of you, because frequency is in not only your voice and your words and your emotions, but in your being. So frequency will go out and it'll affect everybody around you, positively or negatively. That's not the kind of stuff you want to be throwing out if it's negative. Because people pick that up. And especially if you have a call as a leader or something like that, people listen to what you say, whether you realize it or not. They listen to what you say. Be careful what you're saying. Right? Then who is, I usually list a people, a group of people who are in the dream, if they're people I know. Sometimes they're family members, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're unidentified people, which are usually going to represent spirits in your dream. Could be an angel, could be a demon, could be somebody messing with you. I mean, those things happen, right? And then where is obvious. Those are all obvious. When it's daytime or nighttime, was it light outside or was it not? Because that can affect what's going on in your dream. I'm given a very short answer to, there was a wedding at my new trailer house. And then I go and I write all the details of the dream, because the details can or cannot be important. But you have to be able to process through it so that you see what the message is. Because all of what's in the dream is going to have some sort of bearing, right? It can get very complicated, but it doesn't have to be. It's really simple. The simplicity of it is you got to hear by the Spirit, because He knows everything. So when you hear by the Spirit, you don't have to worry. There's nothing wrong with learning the practical side of dreams. Nothing wrong with it. It's great. But the reality is, if all you learned was looking up a symbol in a dictionary, you didn't get very far. You've got to be led by the Spirit. And then the delivery is something completely different. If you're interpreting somebody else's dream, right? If you don't deliver it well, or there's judgment in your words, you've just defiled the recipient. You're going to shut something down. So if God gives you a message for someone else, you better make sure your filter's clean, so that when you release it, it's released in love. It's comforting, edifying, and uplifting, encouraging, because it is a prophetic message. Anything God says is a prophetic message. Whether it's directly to you, through somebody else to you, through your dreams, on a billboard. I'm going down the street one day, a highway one day, after I've been looking for I didn't like church too much at this point in my life. And I was kind of looking for a church that was kind of cool. They're not everywhere, in case you haven't noticed. And honestly, I don't really go to church. But if I go to church, I want it to be a cool church. That means one that's open to the Spirit of God and what's going on in the here and now, not 100 years ago. Sorry, I'm here, right? So I am driving down the highway and I see this billboard with a church ad and says, "This is the place you need to be." And I was like, duh! Right? I mean, how much clearer could it be after I just asked God, where do you want me? This is the place you need to be. Now, some of you might call that coincidence. But my life is not full of coincidence. My life is full of intricately orchestrated, incredible moments and adventures that have outcome that are highly impacting.